Hey everybody, Jason Burmis here. And Dennis Hastert is trending on Twitter, and I'm about to go over everything the mainstream media is absolutely 127,000% not going to tell you about this case and many others like it. Why? Because we live in a world where things are contrived, they are controlled, and narratives are often distorted in favor of the predator class. So, let's check it out. Mr. Hassert here is trending. Why? Because Donald Trump has called Nancy Pelosi the worst Speaker of the House in history. And if you watch this channel, you know that I often point to the fact that Dennis Hastert was labeled a serial child molester by a judge within the last few years, and he was Speaker of the House. He was the guy that was the third heartbeat away from the president. President and VP get taken out. Old Hastert here would have become the president. Here, what's really upsetting about the details of this case, which we're about to go over. Number one, he was molesting children as far back as being a social studies teacher, a gym teacher, and a wrestling coach. Do you think a guy like this stops doing that as he gains prominence and power? Secondly, this man has never spent a day in jail ever for doing those crimes. Instead, what happened was the FBI got suspicious of money that was moving around. He first said he was being extorted, but in fact had worked out a deal with just one of his victims. In fact, there were lawsuits that were pending and still going on now. We're going to get into the latest reporting on this was all the way back in September. But where somebody said that in school, when he was a 10-year-old, a fourth grader, I take care of a 10 and 9-year-old girl, by the way. But this 10-year-old boy at the time allegedly was raped in a bathroom by Dennis Hastert. Thank you so much, Flick Off. I really appreciate that super sticker. So the idea that, again, the Democrats are the party of Satan, or the Republicans are the party of Satan, or one of them is more predatory towards children than the other is just false. For decades, this has been going on, whether it be Anthony Weiner with young girls or somebody like Dennis Hastert with young boys. Now, let's go through some of this stuff. I want people to get a good look. Here's a trophy. Look how young this kid is underneath, one of his victims. Take a good look, guys. A real great look. And this man rose up again from a social studies teacher and a gym teacher to what? To what? A very powerful member of the predator class, controlling a lot of what we got in our government. This is it. This is the guy right here. Okay? Take a really great look, guys. So let's continue here. So like I said, September is really the last time it's been reported. He's now backpedaling on the notion that he had sexual misconduct. You should want to puke in your mouth right now with the overwhelming evidence of an old man in a wheelchair. Oh, he's so old. Look, no, he's in a wheelchair. Does this remind you anybody? Harvey Weinstein in a walker? You see how this works? Served less than the 15-month sentence that he got, despite the fact, again, the judge labeled him a serial child molester. Please thumbs this video up, sub and share if you're new, because we're about to get into the nitty-gritty of this, where you're going to find out this is par for the course, unfortunately. And I'm going to give you a few disclaimers here, but another one I want to feature that I've talked about before when I worked at We Are Change that doesn't get enough light is this disgusting piece of vomit. The Seattle mayor, Ed Murray, resigns after fifth child sex abuse allegation. And this is somebody who positioned himself with children straight out of high school, had allegations of decades of abuse of children. Decades of abuse. Okay? Ed Murray Resigned kind of quietly, no real national media attention on him at all. Look at that. He's a Democrat. He's not a Republican. Isn't that weird? Isn't that weird how it works? So what we're about to do is sometimes I play little parts of my documentary films because I think that they're important. And before we get into the sex trafficking aspects, the child molestation, I think it's important that we talk about some of the occultic stuff. Why? Because these clubs, whether it be the Bohemian Grove, which we're about to focus on, or others and other allegations, often involve weird ritualistic behavior. And by the way, Heidi, It's My Life says, Invisible Empire, powerful, must see, thank you. Now, with Bohemian Grove in particular and the owl you see behind me, by the way, these are official annals, very hard to find. I'm about to get 2 more. I already have, I believe, which one's this? This is 4, and I think that this is 7, right? No, this is 5. This is 5. 4 and 5. I'm about to get 6 and 7. I may do some specials just based on this alone, because I think they're, important piece of history. Now, I want to say this right out of the bat. In this, I talk about cross-dressing, I talk about some flamboyance, and I also point to homosexual escorts, okay? I just want to say right now, I'm not anti-gay. You do what you want in your private life. My main problem with a lot of these people is that they're compromised by the fact that they present themselves as one thing, fleecing the public as, say, a Christian conservative or whatever, and behind closed doors, they're this completely other person, aside from the occultic backgrounds. But what we're really going to get into here is we're going to get into the DC scandal, a little piece of that Franklin scandal, and now that you've seen some of the documentation coming out about the finders, is there any doubt there's something very wrong going on and weird going on? We need to do a final couple deep dives into those and finish those documents. That's coming up in the near future, I absolutely promise you. And the next thing that we have to talk about, other than just that, right, and we do in this, is Barney Frank and, the call boy ring that was being run out of that same area and his apartment. So without further ado, we'll stop here and there. Let me know how the volume is once I go live. If it's good, let me know. But here you go. Here's a section of Invisible Empire, all free in the playlist section because I give everything away for free. And like I said, Dennis Hastert, that's part of it. Anthony Weiner, that's part of it. But we're going to go on right here, guys.
This culture of death and the occult continues long after college. Later on in life, these pagan rituals carry on in the redwoods of Sonoma, California.
What is the Bohemian Grove? Well, it's a kind of summer camp for the powerful, an all-male gathering in great secrecy.
This group was formed in the late 1800s by artists, industrialists, and politicians. Bohemian attendees worship the owl as their deity. The Aztecs, Mayans, and other natives of Mesoamerica considered the owl a symbol of destruction and death. This is why the opening ritual for the club is the cremation of care. During the ritual, the effigy of a baby is rowed across the water by the Grim Reaper and given to a high priest, who then tosses it on a fiery sacrificial altar of a 40-foot owl god. It is an earth-based ritual in which care is burned away. The conscience is symbolically cast aside so that they may ignore the pain they have inflicted on others for the advancement of their own agendas.
With this ceremony called the cremation of care, that begins the 2-week encampment where the body of dull care, symbolizing woes and concerns, is burned on an altar in front of a big owl statue. When that ceremony ends, they all start to cheer and yell.
You have to ask yourself why it is that somebody would want to do that, let alone these elite people.
And by the way, all those you're seeing are from these books. Like that illustration, I believe. Let's see if we can find it here. And that's why history is so important. You know what I'm saying? Is it in here? And I haven't opened these in a long time. But here's an example about what we're getting into. Oh, this is probably close to it, right? Sorry, guys. So we do it live. Thumbs the video up. Sub and share, guys. For instance, like we're about to show you some of the plays or whatever. That doesn't make the film, but that's a man in drag, obviously. Thumbs the video up, everyone. Let's see. What else do we have? This does make the film. I think we might have already shown the Mesoamerica one, but you get the point. So let's continue here.
And if you look at the elite throughout history, many of the people that achieve pinnacles of power are into the occult. They seek a supernatural way to gain power.
Why are Christian conservatives such as the Bushes and Newt Gingrich attending the Grove?
And I recognize I'm not going to be invited to Renaissance Weekend or that Bohemian deal where Newt, Rush, and Dick all sit in a teepee, naked, beating on tom-toms.
Why does the media barely mention the Grove? Because many of them are in attendance. Late political cartoonist Phil Frank of the San Francisco Chronicle draws a reporter thinking about his loyalties to Bohemian Grove as he takes notes for a story.
Stories about what happens in these redwoods are hard to come by. A campground statue reminds Bohemians to keep their mouths shut about the Grove.
Many world events have been shaped at the Grove, including the creation of the atomic bomb.
Discussions at the Grove in the 1930s helped lead to the development of nuclear power and the atomic bomb.
Let's just stop it there. So what did we just learn right there? Okay, number one, seems like there's some, media allegiance that maybe narratives have been controlled from there. Two, the birth of the atomic bomb comes from the Bohemian Club. Okay? And there's like weird occultic symbolism throughout. So let's continue.
Every Republican president since Calvin Coolidge has been a member, as well as many Democrats, including Jimmy Carter.
If you look at the membership lists of the Bohemian Grove and the Council on Foreign Relations, the Bilderberg Group, a lot of the key level people are overlapping and are involved in numerous groups.
In addition to pagan rituals that take place there, this all-male club also deals with darker themes through the plays Montezuma, which feature Aztec human sacrifice, and Faust, which feature Mephisto.
Also in the book.
Some of these plays are disturbingly flamboyant. Many of the elitists have a penchant for cross-dressing and singing show tunes. Perhaps that is why much of the all-male staff also happen to be homosexuals.
Well, each year, many of them seem to have a stunt or try to come up with a stunt. Last year, in 1980, the popular button was Free the Fortune 500.
Bohemian Grove that I attend one time at a time. It is the most faggot goddamn thing you will ever imagine.
In 2004, the New York Post reported that gay porn star Chad Savage would be servicing moguls at the Bohemian.
And here's where we're going to start to get into the sex trafficking aspect of it. Because we've already talked about, the narratives being controlled, people being in the media there, things like the atomic bomb, the military-industrial complex using these organizations. And now you're going to find out, well, they also usher in gay porn stars there. And it's going to get a lot worse than that in a minute.
Bohemian Grove. In recent years, several politicians have been outed in scandals, including Senator Larry Craig, who tried to solicit sex from an undercover officer in 2007. Even more shocking, it was revealed in 2004 that right-wing blogger James Guckert, who had unprecedented access to the White House during the Iraq War, was actually Jeff Gannon, a madam and male prostitute for militarystuds.com.
Now, here's where it's really going to get bizarre. Now, this is a madam, a prostitute for militarystuds.com. He has several aliases. He's also writing for a right-wing blog site called Talon News, which has full access to the White House. What? Now, there have been other allegations that have been completely unproven. For instance, he went on Bill Maher's show, and he asked him straight up if he was Johnny Gosch. And if anybody knows who Johnny Gosch is, he's the first kid on the milk carton. Okay, and you can learn about Johnny Gosch yourself. But my point being is, now we have somebody embedded in the media, and he's got full access to the White House. So is this just stopping at Hastert? Now, we're not talking about the child molestation, but we are talking about sex for hire here, and we're going to get into child molestation in just a minute. So take a good look, because he seems to know George W. Bush pretty well.
During his 2 years writing for GOP USA and Talon News, Gannon officially made over 200 appearances at the White House. Oddly enough, over 24 of these visits would take place when there were no scheduled briefings. He failed to check in or out with the Secret Service on many other occasions.
Because I kiss bald men's heads all the time that are in the press and also happen to be male prostitutes. You know, I know there's a lot of people out there that like to talk about Obama and what his sexual habits may be. And believe me, there is a lot of evidence there. You can talk about what Wayne Madsen and others have put out for sure. But take a good look. Take a good look right there. What do you think's going on? All those visits to the White House? I wonder.
Coming and going as he pleased. These type of activities are not new to the White House. In 1989, headlines involving callboys in the White House rocked the cover of the Washington Times.
The Washington Times reported today that unidentified White House aides in the Carter, Reagan, and Bush administrations now are being investigated for using the services of a callboy ring.
Carter, Reagan, Bush administration. You know, everybody wants to talk about that permanent state, that deep state. One of those apparatuses is keeping longtime politicians in there, in Congress, in the Senate. They get to stay. No term limits there. So how do these apparatuses move? Well, within their administrations and their assistants. Craig Spence? Anybody want to look into Craig Spence? Anybody? Bueller? So let's continue, because now we're going to start getting into the child trafficking here. Okay? The child trafficking, which is really why we made this full circle journey.
The paper reports that 2 of the male prostitutes were given a late-night tour of the White House last year.
Hundreds of credit card receipts obtained by the Washington Times confirm that its clients were key officials of the Reagan and Bush administrations, military officers, congressional aides, and U.S. and foreign businessmen with close social ties to Washington's political elite.
Read that again. Read it. You've got actual receipts? And this is part of that. You're part of administrations, your military officers. Wait, I thought it was just Hastert that got up to the top level. Not just congressional aides and U.S. and foreign businessmen. Wait till we learn about a guy named Barney Frank, huh? Old Barn. A guy named Stephen Gottlieb. He was one of those aides. He was one of those congressional aides that was paid by somebody.
This ring extended beyond the White House and into Congressman Barney Frank's bedroom.
Barney Frank, one of 2 openly homosexual members of Congress, acknowledged having used a male prostitute, whom he then hired as a personal employee. The man had keys to Frank's basement apartment on Capitol Hill. Frank paid him approximately $20,000 out of his own pocket to be his housekeeper and driver. But as first reported in today's Washington Times, the man was on probation for sex crimes and a drug conviction, and he ran a prostitution business out of Frank's home.
Although Frank tried to claim ignorance, Stephen Goby, the prostitute in question, claimed that Frank was completely aware of what was going on and was even receiving free and discounted sexual services. The fix seemed to be in. Frank was threatening members of Congress to remain silent prior to being exposed in this sex ring.
Massachusetts Democrat Barney Frank, a homosexual, threatened to expose fellow congressmen he knew to be gay unless they stopped spreading rumors.
Questions stopped, and Frank walked away with a slap on the wrist.
Take a look here. See, this is what they you notice everybody wants to make it about being gay, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But a lot of these people were with 16-year-old girls, underage people, okay? I don't want to obfuscate that. I think they're totally separate issues. You know, we can get into the sex trafficking issue, the occult issue, the hiding oneself issue, but once we start getting into minors, which is what this is really about and which is the truth behind this, well, that's when it's game on. So let's finish this section up here, guys.
Some members of the Ethics Committee were disgusted.
Do we tolerate, do we condone a member of this body who knowingly permits a house of prostitution to be operated out of his residence?
You have just heard one of the most edited, selective garbage that has ever been put forth, in my opinion, in this House.
Again, we see people of the highest levels of power involved in the most repulsive and decadent of crimes.
They couldn't care less about the code of conduct that's taught in all major religions about treating others the way that you want to be treated. And then they masquerade, they put this false front on that they're like everybody else, because your average person wants to do right, believes in some sort of a karma, believes in some sort of a divine justice in the universe. And so these people need to put on this front that they're like the average Joe in middle America, that they go to church every once in a while, and that they believe in an afterlife and a divine justice. And so they have to put on this front that they're like everybody else in order to get elected and to be accepted and to not have people look at them suspiciously, because if somebody goes around and openly admits that they were an atheist or that they were of some obscure religion, people aren't going to throw their support behind them as much, and they're not going to trust them as easily.
The reality of this behavior is never revealed to the public, as the media keeps any revelations quiet. Unfortunately, these type of activities continue to this day. Florida Congressman Mark Foley chaired the House caucus on missing and exploited children. And
listen, this is in 2010. He was chairing the House caucus on missing and exploited children. Is anyone getting upset yet? By the way, this is at a time where Hastert had still not been exposed and was protecting Foley in many people's opinions. All right? They're putting this guy in charge of the caucus on the kids.
went on television praising Chris Hansen's To Catch a Predator series.
The Dateline piece has probably done more than any law we can create.
Foley was later caught attempting to have sexual relations with numerous underage pages.
Congressman Mark Foley, the man who championed the Child Protection Act of 2006, resigned after inappropriate emails and instant messages surfaced that he sent to former congressional pages.
Once more, no charges were even filed.
Foley himself has checked into rehab.
Oh, I'm going to get in a wheelchair. I'm going to check into rehab. Dennis Hastert protected this guy, and people protected Dennis Hastert. Believe that, and they still are. That's why he's not in jail right now.
No one has been charged with any crime.
The Predator
Listen,
class acts like Roman emperors.
That's right, the Predator class, man. I've been harping at this over a decade because these people are monsters. They're monsters. And I'm done. And I want to see the Predator class making money. And oh, great, yay, we got our Twitter moment. But there's a bigger story out there, isn't there? Isn't there? This is the Slither Circle, bro. That was Invisible Empire, A New World Order Defined, 2010 picture. It's free right here in my playlist section. So Shade the Motion Picture, Loose Change Final Cut, and Fabled Enemies. You can watch them anytime. I give it all away for free. All away for free. Please thumbs this up, sub, and share. But if you want to financially support me, if you believe in truth, again, how long have I been at this game? That movie will be released 10 years ago, a few months from now. And I'll continue to expose these monsters. $5, $10, $15, it means the world to me. You want to help me expose a monster right now? Let's take on the machine. Let's take on Disney, WME Entertainment, ESPN, the UFC, and expose another sexual predator, a violent one. There it is. Tweet it out. Go read it first, please. Do your own research. I want you to learn that this person, at the end of the day, there's no doubt that the young lady suffered a horrendous ordeal. The examination and all the evidence shows that she was raped and very badly assaulted in that penthouse suite. These issues are interrelated, guys. So that's how you can support the Burmese Brigade. Again, the GoFundMe. Also, Rockfin, ROKFIN.com. Look for a new profile to be up this weekend and Monday. Brand new content for a subscription-based service once a day, 5 days a week, where they're going to have exclusive stuff from me. And I just want to say thank you guys so much for all your support, because without you, we wouldn't be getting the word out. We wouldn't be able to let people know how serious it is. And it's serious. It goes beyond Hastert. I love you guys, and I'll see you on the flip side.